Okay, good morning. So this video will be related to just an additional knowledge related to the different examinations. Okay, so first, in general to my examinations, what to do or what to prepare. So we have here our setup, the regular setup in every general radiography yung mga rooms. Okay, so you have the X-ray tube, table, you have the chest stand, chest bucky, then you also have the IR, so ako yung plaster daan dali. And then also we have the different shields, the radiation protection, ato mga devices. You'll have the apron, you have the shielding, later siguro itong itong i-gamit if natay examination. Okay? So, in general radiography, if ever na patient mo abot na patient yung niabot sa inyong department and you are tasked. So, first, the video related can will be for the most common examination, which is chest PA. So, buta natin na patient niabot dito sa inyong department. Tapos, examination is related to the chest exam or general examination of the chest for physical exam. Then, this will be the basic setup. Of course, again, you have the tube and then of course you have the room. So, for the IR that you have to prepare, since kanina facility is still dealing with the conventional radiography, so we still have the IR, the cassette. The image receptor niya is still the cassette in which napatay mga X-ray film that is sensitive to light. So if you will be assigned to hospitals or facilities with computed radiography, the most common size of the image receptor for the computed radiography, they call it as the imaging plate. It's not the cassette but rather imaging plate na yung tawag. The imaging plate, the usual size nila is 14 by 17. So one size fits all. Okay, so for conventional radiography, we have different sizes. We range from the 8 by 10. We also have the 10 by 12, the 11 by 14. That is the 11 by 14, 14 by 14, and then 14 by 17. So pag computed radiography, most common ngayon na sizes, 14 by 17. The largest one. Okay? So after preparing the cassette, again, conventional radiography. After dito sa reception area kibali. So ilang i-prepare dito will be the information of the patient, katong patient's marker, and then usually it's the patient's marker ang ilang ihatag sa imo hadre kung ikaw ang na-assign sa radiography na area. So once you receive the patient's marker, you can call the patient, and then before calling the patient, so you have to prepare. For example, it is a male patient, and then you notice that the patient is an average size. Like for example, pares ako ang build. So you would prepare the 14 by 14. Okay? So if, especially mga babae or siguro mga lalaki, pero ketong mga niwag ni kaayo, tapos dili po kayo taas sa inyong height, so maybe you can use the 11 by 14. Okay, so as long as masigo, so you have to be very careful. No? Like for example, 11 by 14, murag masigo sa ako akong thorax, no, masigo lang ako chest, pero actually the film niya is naman sa sulod. It's not the cassette ang atong basis ato ang image, but rather the film inside. So that means even if mura siya masigo, pero if ato ning i-expose karon, some parts of the lungs will be cut off. Okay, so dito siya makita. So to be safe, para wala i-cut off, kani ang pinaka-safest ba. Sigo, tanan ang thorax sa ato ang patient. And also, kung tanawon sa likod, makita pa mo nga naatay space towards the lateral portions. Okay? So take note, madilit na siya makita kung imo siyang isulod dito sa imong chest stand, sa imong chest baki. Okay? So na-prepare na nimo ang mukhang cassette, and then you also have to prepare the X-ray room. So very common sa itong mga X-ray room, of course, we have the X-ray tube, kana siya. You have the chest stand, the table, and then kana siya, kana murag ref diha sa ato ang ductling. That is the generator, the high voltage generator, and then you have the main power supply. So basically ang plangka. Okay. So you have to turn that on. Ako na, ambot ko makita ba? Okay. So we have to turn the main switch on. And then right after switching the main switch, to go to our control console. Pasiga para makita. We have our control console. That is the, kaya sa previous video, di ba, you have the on button. And then, like for example, the examination is chest. So again, ito na sa previous video. Can you see is for the out baki. That means dili ta mo gamit sa ato ang moving bakis nga naa sa chest, and then also naa sa ato ang table. Okay? So ang baki or the grid is naa dito sa sulod. Nadili siya makita, it is embedded already. So it is a moving grid. Also, there is ato ang chest stand. The grid is embedded yapon dire. So that's why makita ninyo medyo baga siya kay napa may grid dira. Okay. So they are moving. Now they are termed as the moving grid because once we press the exposure button, once we press the exposure button, or once we do the full nato nga pressing of the buttons dire, then the grid will move. It will move. Katong isa, there is RMDC, we don't have the stationary grid. Kato si stationary grid mo to siya madala-dala. Diba? Very common nga question during the technique ninyo nga mga subject, diba? Pangutana sa question, pangutana mi sa inyo ha, kinsa pwede dalon, kinsa pwede bitbiton. So it's the stationary grid. Again, the moving grid is already embedded in the machine, the table or the chest baki. Sorry. Okay, so again, out baki. That means we will not use the grid. This is the table baki. So that means ang mag-move during sa exposure is katong grid nga naa sa X-ray table. This is the indication that we will be using the chest baki. Kani. Okay, so that means during the exposure, it will be the chest baki that will move. So since we are dealing with a chest examination, so kanya tang pisiliton. Kani siya. So the chest baki. So some hospitals, some facilities or other facilities, maybe mag-differ sila sa setup nila. Maybe this is placed on this side, maybe this side, maybe na other, depende sa ilang setup. Okay, so you have to ask. You have to ask your rad tech what is the purpose of those buttons nga nasa yung control console, so that you will be familiar. Okay, so we have chest. You have the chest baki that is activated, and then at the same time, pwede po natin siya pisiliton. Okay, so we can press this button. This is makita ba? That is for the chest. Okay. So once we press the chest nga button, excuse me. So the factors are actually already set. Right lang. Okay, so the factors are already set. We have here 75 kVp, we have 6.3 MAS, and then we have 16 millisecond. Okay, so we can adjust the millisecond, we can also adjust the MAS, or if malibog ka kung pila ang MA ani, you can click this one. So that is the MA setting, 400 and then 16. So that is the MAS dahil. Okay, so that is for the average build ng mga patients na 75, 6.3, and since we are dealing with conventional, so the factors sometimes can be affected by the age of the chemical. Like for example, bago pa ka nag-change yung mga chemicals, bago pa yung chemicals, so that means these factors may be adjusted to a lower setting, especially the KVP. And if the age of the chemical is already too old, no, for example, in 1 month you have 500 patients, so that means the action of the chemical will be very lesser compared to the first day niya nga action kibali. So that means the factor will increase. Okay, so this is the average, yun na siya. And butan na to, bago ato ang solution, tapos medyo niwang atong patient towards the aesthetic nga body build, so we can lower the KV. Okay, so since you're dealing with conventional, we don't adjust this one. We don't usually adjust this one, unless of course if the solution is very old na, then that's the time na we can adjust in order for us to adjust the density. Okay, na siya. And if we are dealing with obese na mga patients, so again, this is for the 1 setting, +1, -1, +10, -10. So if we're dealing with very obese mga patients, na siya, and then we can adjust to 7.1 na siya. So the 8 is not used na yun, dili na siya magagamit for the chest. You can use that, but that is too much already. That will cause too much exposure to the patient. So at least na rin ang mga factors. Okay, so batan to sa ako ang body build, we'll use 75 and then 6.3. So that's how you set up your exposure for the chest exam. Okay, so since bata na to in my case, or in this case, that I am the first patient, or I am I am the first to use the X-ray tube during this time, or the first one to use the X-ray tube for the day. Then of course we have to warm up the tube, no? So balik mo sa inyong technique, kumpila to ang factors ito, diba, na sa mga 12 MA, tapos 70, 80, 90 din nga KVP. So you can warm up your X-ray tube before you expose the patient. Okay, so balik for the X-ray tube, again you have the controls, no, kanisya. This is for the angulation, the X-ray tube. Pwede pa dungo, pwede pa anghad, pwede siya medyo gahi na. Pwede siya button dire. Pwede na to ipatunong si tube towards the table. You can also direct the tube towards the chest stand. Okay, like for example, chest PA examination. So you have to direct the tube towards the chest stand. Okay, so again, the previous video gihapon, you have the locking mechanisms. Can you see? So you have to ask your radtech po later on sa inyong clinical nga practice. What's the purpose of all these buttons? Okay, so kani siya for this type of machine. This is for the locking mechanism. Kani siya is for the forward and backward towards the chest stand. Okay, like for example, chest PA, diba? The chest PA exam, the required minimum distance from the chest stand and also towards, or from the IR towards the source should be approximately 72 inches. Ito na siya i-move. Okay, so nisiga. Okay, so that means siya. Okay, so that means that this is na yung arrow. Okay, this or kana yung vertical nga portion niya, the center of the X-ray tube is approximately 72 inches gikan dito sa to ang or towards the IR nato. Okay. Okay. So next we have the collimator. So again, most common size is 14 by 14, but you can also use 14 by 17. And as mentioned, katong sa previous video, you have the lines here that will coincide to the different sizes of the cassette. Okay, like for example, we will use a 14 by 14. So asa taman na siya. Asa yung center, kini yung center. Hindi makita ba? Ano na kuan gamay na bangang gamay. That's the center of the IR. Kung mo na siyang center dire sa ato ang hockey. So center mo siya diha na so asa siya taman sa ubos and then also sa iyahan sa kakilid. Okay, so again, this is the cassette. Tapos nasa sulod atong film, so that means smaller atong film. So that means kanilang white nga portion mura ni siya, mo ni siya ang naa diri sa toong film. Wala na nilabot diri nga portion gani mga metal diri, wala na diri sa film. Okay, di ba kung ato na siyang i-open, there are still spaces in which naapay mga kuan, no, kani diri nga portion. Ato na siyang i-open, napay space nga dili ma-take up ni film. So that's why ato na siyang i-supod manubra. So the 14 by 14 is this one, kani. Dari ihang inferior na portion. And then sa iyang lateral na portion is kani pinaka-last. Kaya siya. So it will form a square. Okay. So kung kabalo na ka, kung asa dapit tama ng imong cassette, then you can set up your collimation. Diyan, tabunan sa tripod. Okay. Siya. So we have the central ray, the center of our beam. Siya. And then we can adjust dayon siya sa lateral portions niya. So that means dire rataman ang exposure saka tong lateral portion sa ato ang cassette. And then also sa inferior na portion dire ra pud siya tama. And you can still adjust na siya, no? So dire taman, dire tama. So that means if ato po i-butan sa cassette, so siguro po lang yan collimation ba? 14 by 14, di ba? Nisunod ra sa linya. Na. So, mura man atong cassette. This is the size of the cassette that you will be using. So, your collimation should not exceed the size of your cassette. It can be smaller than the size of your cassette. Regarding your collimation, it can be smaller than your cassette, but it should never be larger than your cassette. Okay? So again, the light field will coincide with the size of the X-ray beam. Unsa nga area ma-expose na to dira. And then also unsa nga area nga ma-expose ng patient. Okay? So kung ato nang inganaon, atong i-open atong collimation, that is for the 14 by 17. Now, if you are using a 14 by 14 na cassette, then do not use a 14 by 17 na collimation. Kaya wala na yung pulos. But you are just exposing the patient to too much radiation. And then, we also have this one. They call this as the full blast. In which, of course, malpractice din siya sa atong profession. 14 by 14 cassette. This is the, like for example, this is the chest of the patient, and then you are exposing the superior abdomen niya, nga not necessarily on top exposed, and then also, kita niyo, and also the gonads of the patient can also be exposed. That's why it is a malpractice for our profession. And then also, ang yahang neck, kapilang yang head, di ba? Ma-expose gihapon. The target is only the chest, but then your collimation includes the head of the patient. Okay? Again, malpractice for our profession. Okay, kung unsa ang size sa cassette, that should be the size of your collimation. Okay, move. Just so 14 by 14. So for the, ito nasa previous nga video mo po, no? For our chest baki. Okay, so you have again the sizes of the cassette. So it can be adjusted. Say butang. It can be adjusted. Pwede din siyang saka. Pwede siya ng metal plate. Pwede na siya isaka. Now, depends on the size of your cassette. Again, kung 14 by 17, then full. 14 by 14 naman ta, siya can always adjust. And then you have also the metal plates. There is yung lateral portions. No? Again, na siya green. Na siya pair on the other side. Okay. So, duha na sila in order for it to clip on to the film. So, you have to make sure that it is your cassette is locked in place. For example, ganyan, medyo luag na siya, wala na maintain. So, you have to make sure that your cassette is in place, hindi rin siya taga. And then sometimes malimot og lock, and malimot og lock si intern. So what would happen is the cassette can move inside of the baki. Pwede naman siya isunod, pero of course, since the film can move or the cassette is moving, kaya wala mo siya na lock, so what would happen is base yung cassette na dito. Okay, so that means the center of the cassette is not on the center of your baki. Or base inara siya dito. So again, same. The center is not the center of the IR is not in the center of the bucket plate. Okay. So make sure to lock it in place. Okay. So 14 by 14, 14 by 14 collimation for an average view of the patient. And then on the side, we have a button. So every time ginamo sa new facility na, you have to be familiar with all the actions of your machine or the buttons para dalihan ang movement. Okay, so the movement for this, the purpose for this button sa nakalimot is for the up and down movement. Kasi taas yung patient or kasi buhok pa yung patient, so you can always adjust. Okay, but then there are limitations for the downward movement. So the chest bucket can be lowered down. Mabot pa na siya sa salong masangit dito sa kuan. But then the limitation is with your tube. Makita. Diha atama na itong X-ray tube. Dili na siya pwede dili mo pwede i-angulate buta na to. Buko kayong patient nga narawat ka mo. So dili ninyo pwede i-angulate yung mga X-ray tube. So what to do kung dili kaabot atong patient sa ato ang gani. Ito ang chest band. Tapos this is the lowest portion sa ato ang X-ray tube. Siya na mo tulong din siya sa 14 by 14. So you can ask the patient, you can ask the patient to step on the stepping stool. That's why we have the stepping stool sa itong mga department. Okay. So not mentioned sa akong mga previous video, remote ko. We have the X-ray tube na nanatay movements sa akong gi-mention last time. Katong padulong dito, padulong towards the chest stand, and then also pwede na to siya ipaduol dito sa wall, pwede po na ako siya ipaduol dito sa kuha, and then naputay up and down nga movements. And other than that, we have this lever dire. Kini siya. Pwede mo siya tandugon. And the purpose for that niya is for this movement. Like for example, atong patient is naka-wheelchair, nasa naka-wheelchair si patient, tapos dili siya pwede makatindog, and if nakalingkod si patient, katawang i-demonstrate niya if nakalingkod si patient, taas na kayo ang baki, laban na sa chest examination, taas na kayo ang baki. So what to do? Okay. Remove the ligament. Diba? Pwede na siya mag-move. Yeah, kasi yung pinapon ng mga buwan sa imong panbalito, you can adjust. So that if ever your patient is in a wheelchair, you can still do the examination. So you have the chest, you have the X-ray tube, and then you will have your patient sitting here. Diba? So, hindi na siya magamit o baki. So, pwede na siya i-naabot tayo. So, this time, pwede na ito na-out atong X-ray tube up to this portion. So, hindi na siya pwede ma-push na ito ayo towards the ground. because of the limitations sa connection sa inyong wire. Okay. Kita sa outpatient.